Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday segment of Divine Femininity United. Today is a special day. Well, every day is a special day, okay? But today, calendar wise, is a special day. Holiday wise, recognition wise, is a special day because today is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to the beautiful Queen Mothers that, if not for you, there would be no us. There would be no civilization. Hello. There will be no animal kingdom. Hello, with the exception of, seahorses. There will be no. We are the very reason why life is here. Okay. Through Queen Mother, we bring life from the spirit realm into the physical realm. And that right there not only deserves celebration, but deserves celebration every single day. Hello, somebody. Because there is no thing like the mother. Nothing like the mother. There's no thing like Queen Mother. And we are grateful for mothers. We are grateful for those who stand in as mothers, who has had to take over the mother role, who has been an impact in the lives of, whether you birth or whether you had a hand in influencing, whether you were the guardian of, whether you were the bonus mom of, whether you were the big sister that had to step in for the younger siblings, whether you were the neighbor on the block that stood in and assisted with, rearing or disciplining and raising and influencing children, whether you were a teacher that influenced the students, whether you were the principal that influenced the teachers that influenced the students, whether you were, regardless of whether you have bored children, whether your child is still yet with us, whether whether you lost a child, whether you desire to have a child and you've been in that role, amazing aunts, amazing big sisters, whatever the case, amazing cousins, amazing anybody, godmothers, all of those queen mothers, we honor you today. Happy Queen Mother's Day. Okay. I wanted to give you all that honor, but we also wanted to continue on in our journey here. Okay. Because the chapter readings that we go through, they're not long at all. If anything, they take about an hour, and only because I run my mouth. Okay. But we kind of got to elaborate on the things that we're reading and stuff like that. Speaking of reading, we are reading through the amazing book, Power versus Force: The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior, written by the awesome, amazing, enlightened, and conscious David R. Hawkins, MD, PhD. He comes highly recommended, you all. And I'm telling you, we came across him. We were familiarized with him in our last book that was written by Dr. Wayne W. Dyer, which was The Power of Intention. And when Dr. Dyer was quoting him from this particular book, Power versus Force, I said, we got to do it. We got to jump in and we got to do it. We must do it. Okay. So, this is what we're going to do. We're going to jump into this chapter. I'm going to attempt to try to keep you all a short period of time so that you can get back to your celebrations, or I wanted to record it so that you can come back to it later and listen to it at your own, at your own discretion, on your own time. Okay. That is the beauty about these platforms that we're airing on, and we're airing on several. We're airing on Facebook, Clubhouse, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Okay. So with that being said, you can listen in, or you can come back and listen to it later. But either way, I thank you for your presence both now and later. Okay. We are on chapter 4. The topic of that chapter is levels of human consciousness. Levels of human consciousness. I'm going to go ahead and begin reading. And if at any point you want to get the copy of your own ebook reader, then, or the ebook that you can read on your reader, or even anywhere that your devices will be accessible, then you can let me know. Send me a message, and I'll send it over to you through your email address. Okay. Here we go. Chapter 4: Levels of Human Consciousness. Over the years of this study, millions of calibrations have defined a range of values accurately corresponding to well recognized sets of attitudes and emotions, localized by specific attractor energy fields, much as electromagnetic fields gather iron feelings. We have adapted the following classifications of these energy fields so as to be easily comprehensible as well as clinically accurate. It's very important to remember that the calibration figures do not represent an arithmetic, but a logarithmic, progression. Thus, the level 300 is not twice the amplitude of 150. It is 10 to the 300th power. An increase of even a few points represents a major advance in power. The rate of increase in power as we move up the scale is enormous. The ways the various levels of human consciousness express themselves are profound and far reaching. Their effects are both gross and subtle. All levels below 200 are destructive of life in both the individual and society at large. All levels above 200 are constructive expressions of power. The decisive level of 200 is the fulcrum that divides the general areas of force and power. In describing the emotional correlates of the energy fields of consciousness, keep in mind that they're rarely manifested as pure states in an individual. Levels of consciousness are always mixed. A person may operate on one level in a given area of life and on quite another level in another area. That's definitely true because even when I read birth natal charts for people, it can be it can seem contradictory, but that is very indicative of us as a human race. We are contradictory. In one area we're disciplined, other areas we are not. You know what I mean? In one area we can be hot, in another area we are cold. So I can totally understand that. An individual's overall level of consciousness is the sum total effect of these various levels. Next section, energy level 20, which represents shame. The level of shame is perilously proximate to death, which may be chosen out of shame as conscious suicide or more subtly elected by failure to take steps to prolong life. Death by avoidable accident is common here. Wow. Death by avoidable accident is common here. We all have some awareness of the pain of losing face, becoming discredited, or feeling like a non-person. My goodness. In shame, we hang our heads and slink away, wishing we were invisible. Banishment is a traditional accompaniment of shame. And in the primitive societies from which we all originate, banishment is equivalent to death. It's so true. Early life experiences that lead to shame, such as sexual abuse, warp the personality for a lifetime until these issues are resolved by therapy. Shame, as Freud determined, produces neurosis. It's destructive to emotional and psychological health, and as a consequence of low self esteem, makes one prone to the development of physical illness. The shame based personality is shy, withdrawn, and introverted. Shame is used as a tool of cruelty, and its victims often become cruel themselves. It's so true. Shamed children are brutal to animals and to each other. The behavior of people whose consciousness is only in the 20s is dangerous. They're prone to hallucinations of an accusatory nature, as well as paranoia. Some become psychotic or commit bizarre crimes. Some shame based individuals compensate with perfectionism and rigidity, becoming driven and intolerant. Notorious examples are the moral extremists who form vigilante groups, projecting their own unconscious shame onto others whom they then feel justified in righteously attacking. Serial killers have often acted out of sexual moralism with the justification of punishing bad women because of something that happened to them. That is so true, man. Since it pulls down the whole level of personality, shame results in a vulnerability to the other negative emotions and therefore often produces false pride, anger, and guilt. Man, okay, energy level 30. That equals to guilt. Guilt, so commonly used in our society to manipulate and punish, manifests itself in a variety of expressions, such as remorse, self recrimination, masochism, and the whole gamut of symptoms of victimhood. Unconscious guilt results in psychosomatic, hi Nessa, psychosomatic disease, accident proneness, and suicidal behaviors. Many people struggle with guilt their entire lives. That is so true. While others desperately attempt escape by amorally denying it altogether. Guilt domination results in a preoccupation with sin, quote unquote sin, an unforgiving emotional attitude frequently exploited by religious demagogues. I kid you not. I'm gonna read that again. Guilt domination results in preoccupation with quote unquote sin, an unforgiving emotional attitude frequently exploited by religious demagogues who use it for coercion and control. Such quote unquote sin and salvation merchants obsessed with punishment are likely either acting out their own guilt or projecting it onto others. Subcultures displaying the aberration of self uh, flagellation often manifest other regional forms of cruelty, such as the public ritual killing of animals. Guilt provokes rage, and killing frequently is its expression. Capital punishment is an example of how killing gratifies a guilt ridden populace. Our unforgiving American society, for instance, scorns its victims in the press and metes out punishments that have never been demonstrated to have any deterrent or corrective value. Oh my goodness, that's so true. Okay, next level, energy level 50. It is apathy. Apathy. This level is characterized by poverty, despair, and hopelessness. The world and the future look bleak. Pathos is the theme of life. Mm. Apathy is a state of helplessness. Its victims, needy in every way, lack not only resources, but the energy to avail themselves of what may be available. Unless external energy is supplied by caregivers, death through passive suicide can result. Without the will to live, the hopeless stare blankly, unresponsive to stimuli until their eyes stop tracking and there isn't enough energy left to even swallow proffered food. Mm. This is the level of the homeless and the derelicts of society. It's also the fate of many of the aged and others who become isolated by chronic or progressive diseases. The apathetic are dependent. People in apathy are heavy and are felt as a burden by those around them. Too often, society lacks sufficient motivation to be of any real help to cultures as well as individuals at this level because they're seen as drains of resources. This is the level of the slums of Calcutta, where only the saintly, such as Mother Teresa and her followers, dare to tread. Apathy is the level of the abandonment of hope, and few have the courage to really look it in the face. It's so true. It's so true. I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization, and most often a lot of people will turn their backs on the homeless or unhoused is what I like to call unhoused and the less fortunate. They will turn their backs on them or will treat them like they are diseased, like they have leprosy or something. It's like, oh my goodness, these are your other selves, okay? And it's something, yeah. So, and some of their spirits, all they need is somebody to acknowledge them sometimes, see me, listen to me, look my way, give me a smile, something, acknowledge my existence. Most times people don't do that. It's very cruel out here, man. Okay, next level, energy level 75. It equates to grief. This is the level of sadness, loss, and despondency. Most of us have experienced it for periods of time, but those who remain at this level live a life of constant regret and depression. This is a level of mourning, bereavement, and remorse about the past. It's also the level of habitual losers and those chronic gamblers who accept failure as part of their lifestyle, often resulting in loss of jobs, friends, family, and opportunity, as well as money and health. Major losses early in life make one vulnerable to passive acceptance of grief later on, as though sorrow were the price of life. In grief, one sees sadness everywhere. It's so true. In little children, in life itself, this level colors one's entire vision of existence. Part of the syndrome of grief is the notion of the irreplaceability of what's been lost or that which is symbolized. There is a generalization from the particular soul that the loss of a loved one is equated with the loss of love itself. At this level, such emotional losses may trigger a serious depression or death. Although grief is the cemetery of life, although grief is a cemetery of life, it still has more energy to it than apathy does. Thus, when a traumatized, apathetic patient begins to cry, we know they're getting better. Once they start to cry, they will eat again. That's so true. My goodness, that's so true. Okay, next energy level is 100, and that equates to fear. At the level of 100, a lot more life energy is available. Fear of danger is healthy. Fear runs much of the world, spurring on endless activity. Fear of enemies, of old age or death, of rejection, and a multitude of social fears are basic motivators in most people's lives. It's so true. From the viewpoint of this level, the world looks hazardous, full of traps and threats. Fear is the favored official tool for control by oppressive totalitarian agencies. It's true. And insecurity is the stock in trade of major manipulators of the marketplace. Hmm. Man, the media and advertising play to fear to increase market shares. Yes. The proliferation of fears is as limitless as the human imagination. Once fear is one's focus, the endless worrisome events of the world feed it. Mm. Fear becomes obsessive and may take any form. Trepidation of losing a relationship leads to jealousy and a chronically high stress level. Fearful thinking can balloon into paranoia or generate neurotic defensive structures, and because it's contagious, become a dominant social trend. Fear limits growth of the personality and leads to inhibition because it takes energy to rise above fear. The oppressed are unable to reach a higher level unaided. Thus, the fearful seek strong leaders who appear to have conquered their own fears to lead them out of this slavery. So true. My goodness. That is, and I'm glad that he touched on this because absolutely media, news, you know what I'm saying? All types of stuff. That's why we have to be so mindful about what we allow in our gates, in our ear gates, eye gates, what we allow to, feel, allow ourselves to feel or whatever, because this society operates off of fear. The pandemic was proof of that right there. Any type of West Nile, the mad cow, I'm telling you, as when the news reports it, oh my goodness, society goes bananas. Bananas, which is why we have to be mindful to let it don't watch that stuff. Turn it off. Okay? Turn it off. Next level, energy level 125, it's desire. Desire. Even more energy is available at this level. Desire motivates vast areas of human activity, including the economy. Advertisers play on our desires to program us with needs linked to instinctual drives. Desire moves us to expend great effort to achieve goals or obtain rewards. The desire for money, prestige, or power runs the lives of many of those who have risen above fear as their predominant life motif. Desire is also the level of addiction, wherein it becomes a craving more important than life itself. Man, the victim of desire may actually be unaware of the basis of his motives. Some people become addicted to the hunger for attention and drive others away by their constant demands. The yearning for sexual approval has produced an entire cosmetics and fashion industry. So true. So true. Oh my goodness, which is one of the reasons why I stepped away. Desire has to do with accumulation and greed, but desire is insatiable because it's an ongoing energy field. So that satisfaction of one itch is merely replaced by unsatisfied craving for something else. For instance, multimillionaires tend to remain obsessed with acquiring more and more money. Desire is obviously a much higher state than apathy or grief. For in order to get, you have to first have the energy to want. TV has had a major influence on many oppressed people in inculcating inculcating, I'm gonna say, wants and energizing their longings to the degree that they move out of apathy and begin to seek a better life. Want can start us on the road to achievement. Desire can therefore become a springboard to yet another level, a higher level of awareness. Okay, next level, energy level 150 is anger. Although anger may lead to homicide and war, as an energy level, it's much further removed from death than those below it. Anger can lead to either constructive or destructive action. As people move out of apathy and grief to overcome fear is a way of life. They begin to want. Desire leads to frustration, which in turn leads to anger. Thus, anger can be a fulcrum by which the oppressed are eventually catapulted to freedom. Fury over social injustice, victimization, and inequality has created great movements that led to major changes in the structure of society. But anger expresses itself most often as resentment and revenge and is therefore volatile and dangerous. Anger as a lifestyle is exemplified by irritable, explosive people who are oversensitive to slights and become injustice collectors, quarrelsome, belligerent, and litigious. Since anger stems from frustrated want, it's based on the energy field below it. Frustration results from exaggerating the importance of desires. The angry person may go into rage, just like a frustrated infant. Anger leads easily to hatred, which has an erosive effect on all areas of a person's life. Wow. So this is taking us on the scale from the lowest to the highest. We started at 50, which was, I believe, shame or guilt, one of those, okay? And now we're at energy level 175, which is pride. Energy level 175, which is pride, okay? Pride, which calibrates at 175, has enough energy to run the United States Marine Corps. It's the level aspired to by the majority of our kind today. In contrast to the lower energy fields, people feel positive as they reach this level. This rise in self esteem is a balm to all the pain experienced at low levels of consciousness. Pride looks good and knows it. It struts its stuff in the parade of life. Pride is as far enough removed from shame, guilt, or fear that to rise, for instance, out of the despair of the ghetto to the self respect of being a Marine is an enormous jump. Pride generally has a good reputation and is socially encouraged. Yet, as we see from the chart of the levels of consciousness, it's sufficiently negative to remain below the critical level of 200. Yes, it is. This is why pride feels good only in contrast to the lower levels. The problem, as we all know, is that pride goeth before a fall. Pride is defensive and vulnerable because it's dependent upon external conditions, without which it can suddenly revert to a lower level. The inflated ego is vulnerable to attack. Pride remains weak because it can be knocked off its pedestal back to shame, which is the threat that fires the fear of loss and pride. Mm. Pride is divisive. and gives rise to factionalism. The consequences are costly. Man has habitually died for pride. Armies still regularly slaughter each other for the aspect of it called nationalism, religious wars, political terrorism, and zealotry. The ghastly history of the Middle East and Central Europe. These are all the price of pride, which all of society pays. The downside of pride is arrogance and denial. These characteristics block growth. In pride, recovery from addiction is impossible because emotional problems are defects are denied, or character defects are denied due to pride. It's so true. The whole problem of denial is one of pride. Thus, pride is a very sizable block to the acquisition of real power, which displaces pride with true stature and prestige. So true. So true. And it's one that we all had to kind of battle with, to be honest. If we be honest and tell the truth with ourselves, absolutely, we've all battled with pride, for sure. Okay. Next level, energy level. We are finally at 200, you all, because we learned earlier in the other chapters that anything below 200, negative. 200 or higher is where we're trying to go. So right now, level 200, courage, courage. At the 200 level, power first appears. When we test subjects at all the energy levels below 200, we find, as can readily be verified, that all go weak. Everyone goes strong in response to the life supportive fields above 200. This is the critical line that distinguishes the positive and negative influences of life. At the level of courage, an attainment of true power occurs. Therefore, it's also the level of empowerment. This is a zone of exploration, accomplishment, and fortitude and determination. At the lower levels, the world is seen as hopeless, sad, frightening, or frustrating. But at the level of courage, life is seen to be exciting, challenging, and stimulating. Courage implies the willingness to try new things and deal with the changes and challenges of life. At this level of empowerment, one is able to cope with and effectively handle the opportunities of life. At 200, for instance, the energy to learn new job skills is available. Growth and education become attainable goals. There's the capacity to face fears or character defects and to grow despite them. Anxiety also does not cripple endeavor as it would at lower stages of evolution. Obstacles that defeat people whose consciousness is below 200 act as stimulants to those who have evolved into the first level of true power. People at this level put back into the world as much energy as they take. At lower levels, populations as well as individuals drain energy from society without reciprocating. Because accomplishments result in positive feedback, self reward and esteem become progressively self reinforcing. This is where productivity begins. The collective level of consciousness of mankind remained at 190 for many centuries, and curiously only jumped to its current level of 207 in the 1990s. My goodness. So before the 1990s, in the many early centuries, the collective level of consciousness of mankind, you all, was 190, below 200, and only jumped to 207 in the 1990s. I wonder if we were to do the collective test today, where would we fall? Where would we be? Next level, energy level 250, and that equals neutrality. Energy becomes very positive as we get to the level we have termed neutrality, because it's epitomized by release from the positionality that typifies lower levels. Below 250, consciousness tends to see dichotomies and take on rigid positions, an impediment in a world that's complex and multifactual, rather than black and white. Taking such positions creates polarization, which in turn creates opposition and division. As in the martial arts, a rigid position becomes a point of vulnerability. That which doesn't bend is liable to break. Rising above barriers or oppositions that dissipate one's energies. The neutral condition allows for flexibility and non judgmental, realistic appraisal of problems. To be neutral means to be relatively unattached to outcomes. Not getting one's way is no longer experienced as defeating, frightening, or frustrating. As the neutral level, a person can say, well, if I don't get this job, then I'll get another. This is the beginning of inner confidence, sensing one's power. One isn't easily intimidated or driven to prove anything. The expectation that life with its ups and downs will be basically okay if one roll with the punches is a 250 level attitude. Okay, so that to me says this is the level where allowance is, to just simply allow life to be as it is, not to try to control it, not to become a victim to it, but just to experience it. You know what I mean? To be connected to it, but not attached to it. All right. Just experience it. Just go with the flow, ride the wave. What's for you is for you. What's not is not. You know what I'm saying? If it didn't happen, it wasn't meant to happen. You see what I'm saying? That's like an easy flow, neutrality. Okay. People of neutrality have a sense of well being. The mark of this level is a confident capability to live in the world. This is the level of safety. People at this level are easy to get along with and safe to be around and associate with because they're not interested in conflict, competition, or guilt. They're comfortable and basically undisturbed emotionally. This attitude is non judgmental and doesn't lead to any need to control other people's behaviors. Correspondingly, due to neutral people's values of freedom, they're difficult to control. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I can absolutely see that. Now, as we're going over this, you all be sure to, and this is don't this we're not taking anything for condemnation or we're not going into the guilt, the lower vibrating, the lower levels of consciousness, okay? But if you scan yourself right now, like where you are today, knowing self, being completely honest with self, and we come upon a level, we talk about a specific energy level, and it resonates with you, identify the level that you can attest that you can kind of see yourself being on, right? If it's below 200, don't feel any way, right? Just work your way up, elevate it, elevate it. That's what we're reading in this book for. Elevate it. It doesn't mean that you're doomed to be this for the duration of your life. No, because at the end of the day, you are the curator of your experience here in this life. You set your tone. You determine the experience that you're going to have in this life. You do by what you think, feel, what you put yourself in the environment of, all of that. You do that. Right. So if you scan yourself and you find yourself that you resonate more so with those low debilitating levels, it's okay. It's okay. Already you're raising yourself because you're being honest with self. Okay? That takes courage, which is the level 200. Okay, here we go. Energy level 310. Energy level 310. That level equals willingness. Willingness. This very positive level of energy may be seen as the gateway to the higher levels. For instance, at the neutral level, jobs are done adequately, but at the level of willingness, work is done well and success in all endeavors is common. Growth is rapid here. These are people chosen for advancement. Willingness implies that one has overcome inner resistance to life and is committed to participation. Below the 200 calibration, people tend to be closed minded, but by level 310, a great opening occurs. At this level, people become genuinely friendly and social, and economic success seems to follow automatically. The willing aren't troubled by unemployment. Listen, the willing aren't troubled by unemployment. They'll take any job when they have to, or create a career or self employment for themselves. They don't feel demeaned by service jobs or by starting at the bottom. They're helpful to others and contribute to good of society. They're also willing to face inner issues and don't have major learning blocks. At this level, self esteem is high and is reinforced by positive feedback from society in the forms of recognition, appreciation, and reward. Willingness is sympathetic and responsive to the needs of others. Willing people are builders of and contributors to society. With their capacity to bounce back from adversity and learn from experience, they tend to become self correcting. Having let go of pride, they're willing to look at their defects and learn from them. At the level of willingness, people become excellent students. They're easily trainable and represent, of course, a considerable source of power for society. That's good. That's good. And I will say, I have absolutely met some people who would test at the level of willingness. I have. They are gems. They are jewels. They so unproblematic. Oh God. It's just easy. Like Lionel Richie's song, Easy Like Sunday Morning. That's how they feel. That's how it feels to be around those who test at willingness. Three, that's what was that, 310? I think that was 310. Now we're at energy level 350, which is acceptance. Acceptance. At this level of awareness, a major transformation takes place with the understanding that one is both the source and the creator of the experience of one's life. Taking such responsibility is distinctive of this degree of evolution, characterized by the capacity to live harmoniously with the forces of life. All people at levels below 200 tend to be powerless and see themselves as victims at the mercy of life. This stems from a belief that the source of one's happiness or the cause of one's problems is out there somewhere outside of self. An enormous jump taking back one's own power is completed at this level with the realization that the source of happiness is within oneself. At this more evolved stage, nothing out there has the capacity to make one happy. And love isn't something that's given or taken away by another, but is created from within. This level is not to be confused with passivity, which is a symptom of apathy, which is below 200. Acceptance allows engagement in life on life's own terms without trying to make it conform to an agenda. There is emotional calm with acceptance, and perception is widened as denial is transcended. One now sees things without distortion or misinterpretation. The context of experience is expanded so that one is capable of seeing the whole picture. Acceptance has to do essentially with balance, proportion, and appropriateness. The individual at the level of acceptance isn't interested in determining right or wrong, but instead is dedicated to resolving issues and finding out what to do about problems. Tough jobs don't cause discomfort or dismay. Long term goals take precedence over short term ones. Self discipline and mastery are prominent. At the level of acceptance, we're not polarized by conflict or opposition. We see that other people have the same rights as we do, and we honor equality. While lower levels are characterized by rigidity at this level, social plurality, that's what it is. Plurality begins to emerge as a form of resolution of problems. Therefore, this level is free of discrimination or intolerance. There's an awareness that equality doesn't exclude diversity. Acceptance includes rather than rejects. Acceptance includes rather than rejects. I know some people at acceptance as well. Yeah. I'd like to say I have a level. I'm at a level of acceptance, but I will say this: at times, I'm being completely transparent with myself and with you all. At times, I have found myself um, on lower levels, but I'm at a place right now in my life. Once upon a time, I resided there. Okay, I would get my mail there, right? Years ago, years and years ago. But as we learn more of self, as we learn more of the things of love and peace and you know, what drives us and what we're passionate about and our purpose and things like that. Once we learn more of those things, once I learned more of those things about myself, it brought me, it lifted me to higher levels. And at times, because we're in this human flesh, right? It's because we're still living this human life. I found that there can be times, where I find myself in sitting in for a moment at a time, in some of those lower levels. But when I catch it, because I always catch it now, right? I always catch it. When I catch it, it is my mandate to bring it back up. I don't sit in it. Mm-mm. In fact, I'm at a place now, like say for instance, if I get angry about something or something frustrates me or whatever, because things are going to happen. You understand what I'm saying? As long as we're in these human bodies, we're going to experience human emotions. We just are. Now, it's all about how you navigate those emotions and what you allow to persist in, when you're feeling those emotions. So now, in frustration, anger, sadness, whatever, I say to myself, I say out of my mouth so that my ears can hear it. I'll say, B, you got 60 minutes. You have 60 minutes to express how you feel about this situation, whatever, whatever. So I satisfy my human self, but I return back to my higher self. I let my human self have their moment. But once that human self is over, because that 60 minutes, once it's over, we're back to our God body. Okay. We gotta return back, elevate ourselves, quiet myself, ground myself, meditate, breathe, raise my chakras, open my chakras, activate them, get them going, get back into my affirmations, speak over myself, talk about what I am, who I am, how I am, where I am, what we're going to do. Bring your focus back into the now, and let's get moving. Okay, let's get moving. I allow myself 60 minutes. I allow my human self, my psychological self, 60 minutes to be angry, to be frustrated, to yell, scream, cry, whatever. Oh, yeah. And then once that 60th minute is up, back to business. Let's go. Okay. That's what it is for me. So that's how you can be in this world, but don't fall prey to the world. All right. Don't become of the world. I'm very conscious of that right now. So yeah. That's how I get myself back to the level of acceptance and willingness and courage. And now that we're going to the higher level, here we are, energy level 400, reason, reason. Intelligence and rationality rise to the forefront when the emotionalism of the lower levels is transcended. Reason is capable of handling large, complex amounts of data and making rapid, correct decisions, and of understanding the intricacies of relationships, gradations, and fine distinctions. Expert manipulation of symbols as abstract concepts becomes increasingly important. This is the level of science, medicine, and of generally increased capacity for conceptualization and comprehension. Knowledge and education are here sought as capital. Understanding and information are the main tools of accomplishment, which is the hallmark of the 400 level. This is the level of Nobel Prize winners, great statesmen, and Supreme Court justices. Einstein, Freud, and many of the other great thinkers of history also calibrate here. The shortcomings of this level involve the failure to clearly distinguish the difference between symbols and what they represent, and confusion between the objective and subjective worlds that limits the understanding of causality. At this level, it's easy to lose sight of the forest for the trees, to become infatuated with concepts and theories and end up missing the essential point. Intellectualizing can become an end in itself. It's so true. Reason is limited in that it doesn't afford the capacity of the discernment of essence or of the critical point of a complex issue. Yeah. Reason does not it's of itself provide a guide to truth. Yes. It produces massive amounts of information and documentation, but lacks the capability to resolve discrepancies in data and conclusions. All philosophical arguments sound convincing on their own. Although reason is highly effective in a technical world where the methodologies of logic dominate, reason itself, paradoxically, is the major block to reaching higher levels of consciousness. Transcending this level is relatively uncommon in our society. It's so doggone true. My goodness, because everything has to make logical sense. Everything has to be rationalized, and it has to be measured and gauged, and yeah, man, I get it. I so get it. And because of that, I get it. That's why it can become a major block to reaching higher levels. Don't get me wrong, it is a higher level, but it causes a wedge. There's a blockage there because if it doesn't make sense to your logical intellect, don't get me wrong, your intellect is there, it's up there, but you can't go further than your intellect will allow, because it has to make sense, psychological sense, to your brain. And we know that the things of spirit are foolish to the people of the world. So spiritual things will never make sense because it's not a sense driven element. The spiritual things transcend senses. So in order for you to break out of reason and go into the esoteric or the ethereal, you got to open your mind even more. Okay? And that brings us to the next level. Energy level 500, which is love. Which is love. Love is depicted in the mass media. Love as depicted in the mass media is not what this level is about. What the world generally refers to as love is an intense emotional condition combining physical attraction, possessiveness, control, addiction, eroticism, and novelty. It's usually fragile and fluctuating, waxing and waning with varying conditions. When frustrated, this emotion often reveals an underlying anger and dependency that it had masked. That love can turn to hate is a common perception, but here, an addictive sentimentality is likely what's being spoken about rather than love. There probably never as actual was actual love in such a relationship, for hate stems from pride, not love. Come on here. Oh my goodness. That right there says a lot about today's societies, about today's relationships. Because anytime, and I see this when I see, couples going their separate ways, and or being going through a divorce process. The very person that you once were head over heels in love with, I mean inseparable. You loved them and you were googly eyes and you had butterflies and your stomach was, was just fluttering, and just eyes were fluttering and things like that about this person once upon a time. All of a sudden, when you all are going your separate ways, the venom that comes out. It's like, whoa. I don't get me wrong. I understand growing up and apart. I do. I get it. I myself went through that process. But I will tell you that it is very possible to move apart and still operate in love at the same time. Absolutely. It's like, what did this person ever mean to you? If you can say such venom out of your mouth to a person that you once were just infatuated with, obsessed with, then the question lies, was that ever love? Because actual love would never let you come out of your mouth that venomously to a person that you loved. Never. Never ever. because love would keep intact. The love would keep your mouth, it would keep your heart. You would never even think it to say to this person if actual love were there. But like the last sentence of that paragraph stated, that love can turn to hate is a common perception, but here, an addictive sentimentality is likely what's being spoken about rather than love. There probably never was actual love in such a relationship, for hate stems from pride, not love. So, was that love or pride that you were operating in? I continue. The 500 level is characterized by the development of a love that is unconditional, unchanging, and permanent. It doesn't fluctuate. Its source isn't dependent on external factors. Loving is a state of being. It's a forgiving, nurturing, and supportive way of relating to the world. Love isn't intellectual and doesn't proceed from the mind. Love emanates from the heart. It has the capacity to lift others and accomplish great feats because of its purity of motive. As this level of development, the capacity to discern essence becomes predominant. The core of an issue becomes the center of focus. As reason is bypassed, there arises the capacity for instantaneous recognition of the totality of a problem and a major expansion of context, especially regarding time and process. Reason deals only with particulars, whereas love deals with entireties. This ability, often ascribed to intuition, is the capacity for instantaneous understanding without resorting to sequential symbol processing. This apparently abstract phenomenon is, in fact, quite concrete. It's accompanied by a measurable release of endorphins in the brain. Love takes no position and thus is global, rising above separation. It's then possible to be one with another, for there are no longer any barriers. Love is therefore inclusive and expands the sense of self progressively. Love focuses on the goodness of life in all its expressions and augments that which is positive. It dissolves negativity by recontextualizing it rather than by attacking it. Mm. This is the level of true happiness. But although the world is fascinated with the subject of love and all viable religions calibrate at 500 or over, it's interesting to note that only 0.4% of the world's population ever reaches this level of evolution of consciousness. Man, only it he said this level of love, this level of true happiness, this is the level of true happiness. But although the world is fascinated with the subject of love and all viable religions calibrated 500 or over, it's interesting to note that only 0.4% of the world's population ever reaches this level of evolution of consciousness. My goodness, of actual love. I swear, I really, even in learning more and identifying more and aligning more with the levels of consciousness, the higher levels, it makes you question, like, did we ever know love? Did we ever know the I am? Did we ever know the Almighty? Did we ever know joy? Did we ever know peace? Or did we only become familiar with pseudo love, pseudo joy, pseudo peace, conditional love, conditional joy, conditional peace? Or did we ever become familiar with the image of the God that we created in our minds, that we can conceptualize? Did we ever really know? And it also speaks of the disconnection of self, right? Because all of those infinite love, infinite peace, infinite joy, infinite is who we are, our true self. So if we've never experienced that true level of love, joy, peace, the I am, then we never connected with us. That's what that's indicative of. We never knew it because we never connected with it inside of our own selves. My goodness. That was level 500. Now we're at energy level 540. That equals love. I mean, joy, joy, joy. As love becomes more and more unconditional, it begins to be experienced as inner joy. This isn't the sudden joy of a pleasurable turn of events. It's a constant accompaniment to all activities. Joy arises from within each moment of existence rather than from any other source. 540 is also the level of healing and of spiritually based self-help groups. From level 540 up is the domain of saints and advanced spiritual students and healers. A capacity for enormous patience and the persistence of a positive attitude in the face of prolonged adversity is characteristic of this energy field. The hallmark of this state is compassion. People who have attained this level have a notable effect on others. They're capable of a prolonged, open visual gaze, which induces a state of love and peace. At the high 500s, the world one sees is illuminated by the exquisite beauty and perfection of creation. Everything happens effortlessly by synchronicity, and the world and everything in it is seen to be an expression of love and divinity. Individual will merges into divine will. A presence is felt whose power facilitates phenomena outside conventional expectations of reality, termed miraculous by the ordinary observer. These phenomena represent the power of the energy field, not of the individual. One's sense of responsibility for others at this level is of a different quality from that shown at the lower levels. There's a desire to use one's state of consciousness for the benefit of life itself rather than for particular individuals. This capacity to love many people simultaneously is accompanied by the discovery that the more one loves, the more one can love. Near-death experiences, characteristically transformative in their effect, have frequently allowed people to experience the energy level between 540 and 600. I can believe that. I can believe that wholeheartedly. Next energy level is 600. That is the level of peace. Ooh, that level of peace. That level of joy, the level of love. My goodness. This energy field is associated with the experience designated by such terms as transcendence, self-realization, and God consciousness. It's extremely rare, attained by only 1 in 10 million people. When this state is reached, the distinction between subject and object disappears. And there's no specific focal point of perception. Not uncommonly, individuals at this level remove themselves from the world, as the state of bliss that ensues precludes ordinary activity. Some become spiritual teachers, others work anonymously for the betterment of mankind. A few become great geniuses in their respective fields and make major contributions to society. These people are saintly and may eventually be officially designated as such. Although at this level, formal religion is commonly transcended, to be replaced by pure spirituality, out of which all religion originates. Perception at the level of 600 and above is sometimes reported as occurring in slow motion, suspended in time and space. Nothing is stationary, and all is alive and radiant. Although this world is the same as the one seen by others, it has become continuously flowing, evolving in an exquisitely coordinated evolutionary dance in which significance and source are overwhelming. This awesome revelation takes place non-rationally, so that there is an infinite silence in the mind, which has stopped conceptualizing. That which is witnessing and that which is witnessed take on the same identity. The observer dissolves into the landscape and becomes equally the observed. Everything is connected to everything else by a presence whose power is infinite, exquisitely gentle, yet rock solid. Great works of art, music, and architecture that calibrate between 600 and 700 can transport us temporarily to higher levels of consciousness and are universally recognized as inspirational and timeless. That is amazing. And notice this person, this writer said, great works of art, so paintings, music, even architecture can calibrate between 600 and 700. Keeping in mind, everything has a frequency. Everything. Everything has a vibration. Everything. Imagine, and I've felt this before because I am a creative to my core. I've stared at paintings and have immediately felt presence, felt power. I felt heat standing behind me, or an overwhelming energy where it was peaceful, or it was overwhelming and yet safe at the same time, just by looking at a painting. I've listened to music that has sent me into orbit, okay? Just by listening, closing my eyes and just sitting and receiving the notes, letting the notes speak, letting the notes permeate. Actually, Andre 3000's most recent album, I believe it's The New Blue Moon or something like that, where he only plays the flute. He set the frequency and the hertz of that album to the level of love. And when you listen to it, those who are in tune, you feel it. I have fallen asleep to that album and had it on replay. And I've had some of my most vivid dreams and astral projections with that album. My goodness. I'm telling you, architecture, how many of us have entered a building, a structure, and you feel the energy in it? You feel it. That's why I don't allow a lot of traffic into my home, because there's an energy that I've created in here in my home that I don't want disturbed. I don't want to disturb that. You know, anybody who comes in, I'm talking about delivery people and all. Anybody who comes in immediately, they say, "Oh my goodness, it feels so good in here. It feels like home. It just feels, oh my God, it's just." Everyone, I kid you not, that enters my threshold, they all feel it. Strangers, people who have never been around me before, they all feel it. And that is because I set the temperature in my place energetically. I set it for me to dwell. I dwell here. So absolutely I'm going to set the energy in the temple for me to dwell, because I am energy. I am divine. I am sacred. Therefore, the energy in my domain will be that of such. It just will. Even my animals, my dogs, I have dogs, even they are at peace in this dwelling. That is very possible, you all. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Timeless, inspirational, and timeless. All right. Next section, energy level 700 through 1000 equates enlightenment. Mm, 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 mm. Know this though. Before I go into that, know this. We are all in our energetic selves, our true selves. We're all at the level between 700 and 1,000, even as we speak. The difference is, as we're inside of this human body, we take on these human 3D debilitating, low vibrating energies. We just do. And we have to be, that's why the word consciousness is the word, that awareness, a being awakened. That's why we have to be more cognizant, because the more, when we become aware, when we become conscious of these levels and these things, right? That we have taken on as ours, and have identified ourselves by way of these things that don't belong to us. Again, we're to be in this world, not of this world. And oftentimes, as we journey in this life, we become of this world. And sometimes we have to sit back and become conscious of the things that we have taken on, that we've adapted as our own. We then now have to release those things, and draw more and more in alignment to who we truly are. That takes going within. It takes going within. It takes identifying with self. Who am I? Who am I? One of the first questions that I ask with any new client that I take in. First question: do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? Based on the answer that I receive, I know exactly which direction, by way of spirit, on which direction to take this person into. Because my goal is to remind you of who you are. That's my goal. Once you remember, because you've always known, you just had a slip of the memory. Once you remember, once you recollect the things of you, then you align with those things, and then you navigate the duration of your life as yourself. That's what it is. And things that you once called problems are now opportunities to demonstrate yourself. So we're all there already. You just have to identify with it and align with it. Energy level 700 through 1,000, enlightenment. This is the level of the great ones of history who originated the spiritual patterns that countless people have followed throughout the ages. All are associated with divinity, with which they're often identified. This is the level of powerful inspiration. These beings set in place attractor energy fields that influence all of mankind. At this level, there is no longer the experience of an individual person, self-separate from others. Rather, there is an identification of self with consciousness and divinity. The unmanifest is experienced as self beyond mind. This transcendence of the ego also serves, by example, to teach others how it can eventually be accomplished. Exactly. This is the peak of the evolution of consciousness in the human realm. Great teachings uplift the masses and raise the level of awareness of all of humanity. To have such vision is called grace, and the gift it brings is infinite peace, described as indefinable, beyond words. At this level of realization, the sense of one's existence transcends all time and individuality. There is no longer any identification with physical body as me, and therefore its fate is of no concern. Come on. Ooh. Oh my goodness, I love that. The body is seen as merely a tool of consciousness through the intervention of mind. Its prime value, that of communication. The self merges back into the self, the uppercase S self, okay? This is the level of non-duality or complete oneness. There is no localization of consciousness. Awareness is equally present everywhere. Great works of art depicting individuals who have reached the level of enlightenment characteristically show the teacher with a specific hand position called the mudra, wherein the palm of the hand radiates benediction. This is the act of transmitting this energy field to the consciousness of mankind. This level of divine grace calibrates up to 1,000, the highest level attained by anybody who has lived and in recorded history, to wit, the great avatars for whom the title Lord is appropriate is Lord Krishna, Lord Buddha, and Lord Jesus Christ. Those three has been recorded in history to have reached the 1,000 level, highest level attained. Wow. That is chapter 4. That is chapter 4. That is amazing. That is amazing. My desire, you all, I want to reach that level in this life. I want to reach that level in this life. And you know what? Sometimes to reach that level requires isolation. It does. In the story of Christ, Christ left Mary and Joseph. And in the story, he left Mary and Joseph at the age of 12, went away in isolation. Went away in isolation. In tarot, that's the hermit card, where you go, you introspect, reflect, grow, learn, build, transcend, ground, still yourself. He left at the age of 12 and did not return until the age of 30. He was away for 18 years by himself. To obtain those levels of enlightenment, 1,000, to attain that level of enlightenment, you have to step away. You got to step away. You do. You do. And in all three of them, Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna, and Lord Jesus Christ, they all had 10 years of isolation. They did. I will reach my level of enlightenment in this life between 700 to 1,000. I will. I'm well on my way. Okay. That is the end of chapter 4. On Tuesday, we will be going over chapter 5, which is entitled Social Distribution of Consciousness Levels. Social Distribution of Consciousness Levels. Okay. I love this book, man. You all, I hope you're getting something out of it, because when I tell you, it's amazing. If you need the book, you should be able to you should get this book for yourself. I'm telling you, you need this book for yourself. To receive the ebook, okay, inbox me with your email address. It's only a $5 seed. I request a $5 seed because you're sewing into what we do here. Okay. I air on several platforms simultaneously, and it costs to do so. Okay. It costs to do so. So that's my only expense here, is to do this, what I'm doing. And I love to do it. And it reaches a lot of people. Whether seen or unseen, spoken or unspoken, it reaches a lot of people. And I've done this for several years because this is my bent. This is what it is that I'm called to do. And, I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it, because I learn and grow alongside you all. You understand what I'm saying? I've learned, and I've always said, we're holding each other hand, walking each other home to our own selves, our inner selves, our highest selves, our authentic, true selves. That's what we're doing. And I appreciate you for this journey, for accompanying me on this journey. And I'm honored to do the same for you. Okay. So if you want the book, get the book, send me your email address, and I'll get the book over to you, and I'll tell you exactly where you can sow your seed. Okay. For those who want to email me your request for the book, you can do so at info@biancamissblee.com. You can visit my site. All the information is there for you to visit on all sites, okay, all platforms. Follow me, you all, on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee, okay? Very simple, very easy. I try to make it as simple and easy for you as possible. Alrighty. Listen, you all, I wanted to, like I said, I didn't want to keep you long. I knew it would be just over an hour or whatever, because I knew I had to give honors to the Queen Mothers for today. Happy Mother's Day again, you all. I'm going to go and enjoy my Mother's Day, okay? Because I am a mother. I am a mother of a son, okay? 13 years, although he's in spirit right now, he's still very much so my son, and I'm still very much so his mother. I am the godmother of two boys, one who's in his 20s, and then one who is, I believe, 7, and doing very well. I watched them from afar, and it's like, oh my goodness. They're such amazing boys, such bright, amazing young men. And they have awesome parents as well. And then I have been blessed and honored to be spiritual mother and mentor to many. I'm talking thousands worldwide. And that has been one of the biggest honors of my entire life. All right. Because some people have gone on to do some amazing things. And even if it was just for a season, the impact. Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful to be utilized in this time, in this space, for those who I'm, destined to cross, and I'm grateful for those who were there to impact me, So happy Mother's Day to everybody. Enjoy, and man, I'm just kind of sitting in that energy. I love you all. I mean it. There is absolutely, positively nothing you can do about it. Don't you even try it. We will see you all back here on Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at Divine Femininity United. Peace.